Before we begin, thank you very much to F. Fonseco for joining my Patreon campaign. Very appreciated. Thank you very much for the support. Thank you all for the amazing support you've been doing this year. Yeah, it's going to be 3 months consecutively. I've not been able to do a normal intro. My old intro is now collecting dust somewhere off to the side, and I know not when I will get to break it out again, but it's not a bad problem to have. Okay, so I warned you I had things to promote, so I'll be very quick about it, but this is really super cool and really important to me. All right, so I mentioned before that I've got a D&D campaign that's going to be live streamed, so you can see it every single week. Well, the teasers are starting to come up. Look at this, look at this. So, this will be happening on a different Twitch channel than mine. It'll be Gob the Goblin, Gob_the_Goblin. Live D&D 9 p.m. Eastern, so you can get an hour of us in before you jump over to Critical Role. So we're basically your warm-up show, but the archives will also be available for online on YouTube, so you'll be able to see us still. And that is my character being teased there on the left. Now that's you get to wonder who exactly that's going to turn out to be. I'm super excited because it's the type of character I've never played before. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. The group is super cool. I'm really excited to actually play this game with them. And yeah, I'm super hyped for that. So stay tuned. Like, I really want people to check it out. But on to the topic of the day. And I don't even know how much leg this topic has, but it's one of those little pet peeve things that I kind of want to talk about today, just to kind of get it out of my system and just get it out there. Maybe this is a hot take video. Maybe this is an editorial. Maybe this is a TED Talk style video. I don't care. This is just me going off on a random topic that I kind of need to get something off my chest about. So, we're talking Dinobots today. We for the most part, I think everyone likes the Dinobots in one iteration or another. It's one of the cooler teams in Transformers. I mean, for starters, it's the original sub-faction. Before any combiners, there were the Dinobots. And yeah, of course, we love our robots here on this channel, but most everyone likes dinosaurs too. So when you put the two together, you had basically the perfect toy for an 80s kid. And then Jurassic Park came out, and you had Dinobot becoming a perfect toy for a 90s kid. So, of course, dinosaurs are always a thing, and robots are always a thing. So putting the two together, amazing. You know, Takara hit on it for their Diaclones. We brought it over here, and it was a huge hit, so we love our Dinobots. Now, the trick to the Dinobots is they came out before combiners were a thing. And as Transformers grew, and as it went on, even in year one of Transformers, we just kind of became accustomed to groups of Transformers being able to become a combiner because it just seemed to be the thing to always do. Obviously, we have a lot of intentional ones throughout the years, teams of 6 or 5 that were designed to be combiners, and then you have others adapted into combiners as well. You've got 3-part combiners, 4-part combiners, you've got Micromaster combiners, you've got Soundwave has cassettes that combine. It's always about the combination. And it kind of makes everyone look back at the Dinobots and go, well, why not? Why not a Dinobot combiner? Now, these days, we have a lot of answers for that question. However, for most of the existence of Transformers, it was just kind of left up in the air, and everyone just kind of did, just kind of like fan moded it in their heads. What would a Dinobot combiner be? Now, obviously, originally, there was no plan for this. The Dinobots were just their own thing, and they, as a thing, are really unique amongst Transformers, especially back then. It was the tagline of the toy line was robots in disguise, right? One of the two taglines. Well, what kind of hiding are you doing when you are a gigantic steel gray and gold Tyrannosaurus? It's not really going to fit in downtown Manhattan or anything, So this was a very different thing. So the show always explained it, and the comics kind of do too, that it is a specialist team. They are frontline fighters. They are the tanks. They are the, if you're playing D&D, they're the barbarians of the group. They're there to soak damage and do damage. And that's exactly what Dinobots do, and they're very, very good at it. Now, for me, that was always the cool part about Dinobots. That was always the cool thing to me. But apparently that wasn't enough. Apparently that wasn't enough because we needed to continue this. We needed to continue this. So, what else? What else do we have? If we're going to talk about, Dinobots, there's the first attempt at combining the Dinobots, which is the one nobody likes to talk about. So this was from a comic book that was post-Dreamwave, pre-IDW, in this real little nexus in between where just random one-off comics got created. I believe it was Metrodome, which was a company that was producing Transformer DVDs at the time, that ended up creating a comic book that packed in with, I think, a season 3 and 4. I might be mistaken. It's been a long time since I looked it up. Point being, there's a one-off comic book where the Dinobots were forced to meld together into the Beast, as it was called. It is not an intentional combination. If you remember the old Marvel G1, this is far more akin to Megatron and Ratchet being forced to merge together by accident. Except this was to create an intentional killing machine. It is supposed to look horrific. It is supposed to be a nightmare. And literally nobody liked it. I mean, I'm sure there's somebody out there who liked this idea of like a super twisted version of like a Dinobot combiner. But this was also like a really sad, the story itself comes to like a really sad conclusion because they just kind of kill the Dinobots off. They don't have any way of separating them. So, yeah, it's a pretty dismal story with a depiction of the Dinobots literally nobody wanted outside of the fact that, yes, it's the first time the Dinobots got to combine. But it's one of those things that just kind of fueled it. It was always a, what if they combined? And now the question became, well, what if they combined but it didn't suck? Right? So the first real attempt, the first time we can actually call it a Dinobot combiner was during Power Core combiners, and this was Grimstone. Kind of a offbeat set of Dinobots. It's, okay, so you got a Styracosaur, you've got 4 drones based on other dinosaurs and things that aren't technically dinosaurs. A Dimetrodon is not technically a dinosaur. So, caveats, right? The point being, this is the first time we actually got to see what it would be like. It's the first time we actually got some idea of what it could be, and to see all these unified colors combining into a robot. And people will often tell me, oh, but that's the good toy out of Power Core combiners. And I tend to disagree. Grimstone himself is a pretty limited toy because of all the stuff he has to do to create the combined mode. And while the overall look is good, I mean, it still suffers from the same problems of the automorph gimmick on all the limbs. And now you also have beast limbs kind of strewn about the combiner, messing things up even more. It's still, is typical of a Power Core combiner. It just happens to look nicer because the color scheme is unified. For me, it's just not a great toy, like anything in Power Core combiner. And as a first toy of combining Dinobots, really was not great. It really wasn't great, and especially because it wasn't what we really wanted. It was Hasbro experimenting with an idea. It took a while before they came through with it for real. These days, we have Volcanicus. Thanks to Power of the Primes, we have an official Dinobot combiner. I say official because I'm sure there were knockoffs at some point of the Dinobots that you could lump together, or dinosaur-esque toys that combined. There's always those. They're all over Amazon. However, this was the first time we got it officially, and it is the main 5 Dinobots. So I've never been a fan of this one either. So the toys themselves are okay. Grimlock's a little bit weird in proportion because he has to be the torso. But for me, this set just felt, I don't know, like it lacks what I really like in my Dinobots. Because everyone had to be a small deluxe, you're losing a lot of the bulk and power you normally get from a Dinobot on the individual bots. And then you get to Volcanicus in the combined mode, and he's got this super skinny waist, very small torso, but massive shoulders, sticking his arms way out. Now, again, because it's a unified color scheme, it looks better. But man, the proportions are so off. Like, it's not what I think of when I think Dinobot. I think big, hulking masses of muscle. Or metal, in this case. I don't think scrawny waist, gigantic, like, Mega Man legs, and these super wide, like not even shoulders, or like shoulder extensions. I don't know. It just never looked good to me. And like if anything, it kind of started proving like in my own head that this really shouldn't be a thing. This is not something we should be going for. Now, I say this fully knowing that there is a brand new Volcanicus coming out at the core class size, where the proportions are far better, partially because we've introduced a 6th Dinobot into the mix. I, as an Ankylosaurus guy, I am so looking forward to Scar, even if he's going to be a tiny little thing hampered by his ability to combine. I don't care. I want a Dinobot Ankylosaurus. I'm happy that Hasbro knows that there are fans wanting a full-size one. It's fun. I mean, adding to the Dinobots is a lot of fun. I think there's plenty of room there. You could have a whole B team of extra Dinobots that are just like, extra designs or different dinosaurs we never got. That's where Slash comes in. That's where Scar would obviously come in. And yes, there's a Dinobot named Paddles out there where, yes, you could throw them in too. Just to say, just as an example. It does look like it's going to be better, but the individual bots are heavily compromised in order to make this work, especially poor Sludge here. It's going to be a weird one, but at the very least, it's going to look nicer when it's done, I guess. Like, that's my takeaway right now. But it's still not... Like, if they did it a larger size, yeah, fine. But at the core class, it's just going to be a nice, neat little desk figure, right? So it's getting closer, but it's still just not there. And for me personally, I don't think it's ever going to be there. Like, the core class gives me a little bit of hope, but honestly, I've always been of the mindset that Dinobots don't have to combine, and that they are cooler because they don't combine. I don't understand the obsession with, like, when we get more than 2 Transformers together as a group, you're gonna have people in the fandom going, they need to combine. No, they don't. Not all of them do. The Autobot triplets from, the Autobot brothers from RID, I don't need to see a combiner of them, right? I don't. The Spy Changers, I don't need to see a 6-piece combiner of them. It's fine. It's whatever. I don't need to see a Throttlebot combiner, even though there is one thanks to third party. Sometimes teams just need to be teams and combiners need to be more special. You don't have to make every single thing combine. I'm also looking at the DJD and third party, by the way. They don't need to combine. They're cooler in individual units. They don't gain anything by combining. You can do it with Stunticons fine, because Stunticons were always like generic characters on their own. And then, yeah, you put them together because, yeah, they kind of need that boost. They're kind of treated like... G1 combiners on Decepticon side are all kind of treated like Team Rocket. They've always got a scheme, but they're going to get blown up at the end of the episode. So it's not like they're very effective. They're definitely not effective on their own. For me, the Dinobots were always at their coolest when they were going up against combiners and larger enemies when they didn't have the ability to combine themselves. In Season 1, they were the default answer to Devastator for the Transformers, until, like, Omega Supreme needed to be on screen to sell a toy. And even in the movie. In the 86 movie, the first real threat to Devastator during that whole fight is the Dinobots. They didn't fare great, but they fared better than everything else that they threw at Devastator. So that was always the coolest thing to me. That the Dinobots were such a powerful group that they could stand up to extremely powerful and overwhelming foes and hold their ground and even win, because they're just that powerful, because they're just that good at what they do. And that's been their traditional depiction for most of media. It's how they were in a lot of the comic books. You know, they're always this kind of loner team that rolls in when they feel like, and they just stomp the battlefield. That's awesome! Why would you muck that up by going, okay, well, now we need to combine and do it more? You know, the Dinobots should be beyond that. They should be above that. They shouldn't need to combine to win a fight. You know, they should just be the fight. They should just be in there, because that's when they look the best. The one time I looked at a set of Dinobots that could combine, and I actually thought to myself, this actually works for me, was going to be in Cyberverse. And that's because the Dinobots have a very different depiction in Cyberverse. Grimlock is not this like overwhelming force amongst the Autobots. He is just kind of an Autobot himself, you know? He's a smarter, more world-traveled character. He's more sophisticated, at least in robot mode. And while, yes, he's depicted as powerful in T-Rex mode, it's not to the point where he's taking on gigantic foes solo. There's limits to the Dinobots in Cyberverse. Especially when we find out, later on that, they're mostly dinosaurs because they're fanboys of Grimlock, or fangirl in Swoop's case. And beyond that, they just kind of have their own thing going on. None of them seem particularly, powerful, with the exception of maybe Swoop for being so freaking smart. I love Girl Swoop. So, yeah, this is the one time where it felt correct. It felt right for them to actually combine into their own combiner, because it felt like they needed it. Especially when they need to work together when they're so separate from each other. It works. It works, and there's almost like a like a team building story to it. It's a shame. Part of this preference is probably because they don't have a toy that looks horrendous. They have one toy of Volcanicus from Cyberverse. It doesn't separate into Dinobots, and it just kind of turns into this quadruped dragon thing that looks terrible. But at the very least, they're not compromised in proportions, because they had to make a bunch of dinosaurs mixed together. At least they got that going. So that's kind of where I stand here. This has just been a thing in the fandom for such a long time that everyone just gets so freaked out that Dinobots need to combine. I'm like, no, they're cooler the way they are. When you look at other combiner teams, they don't need to be that. There is something special about the Dinobots. It's not like the Combaticons where you have like divergent personalities like Swindle, who's nothing like the others and will freely rat them out. The aerial bots have members who have dissension amongst them. You have, even the Technobots have squabbles sometimes. The Dinobots are the one team that is just solidly unified, probably because of their simple logic in mind, but it becomes such a thing. It's stated, if you face one Dinobot, you face them all, because they're such a tight-knit group without having the whole combination thing, that it just works. And I think above all, that's where they should be. That's how a Dinobot should be depicted. A powerful team that never separates, even though they never combine. That's a Dinobot for me. So that's just my whole rant. I just felt like talking about the whole Dinobot combiner thing today. I don't know why it sprung to my head today. It just did. And, yeah. Don't know if anyone agrees with me out there. I'm sure some do, and I'm sure others love Volcanicus, and for whatever reason. Let me know in the comments below where you stand on Dinobots being able to stand as one robot. And yeah, just another random video from me. I will see you next time. Guys, I am facing the most powerful enemy any YouTuber can face, the algorithm, and I need your help to defeat him. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and leave a comment. Every time you do, we attack that algorithm and we drive it back until it can no longer defeat this channel. Thank you very much.